Oh, you post-apocalyptic beauty, gorgeous monster. Oh, didn't see you there. Hi, this is Max from Bosen's Finest. Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Tip series. You might know me as the author of the best-selling romantic novel Static Curves. And today we're going to be talking about this WF19 and these gorgeous limbs by Bosen Archery. The RCX, that is. Let's do this. Hey folks, Max from Bosen's Finest here. Welcome to another grip to Muppet fletching tip video. Right up front, a couple of household items. As always, shout out to the Push Archery, not because they sponsor me or give me anything but their friendship, and maybe, or certainly the best modern traditional archery platform on the planet that has helped out so many folks. Second of all, Optim Optics that I've been working with and for over a year now, and that have been sponsoring me and equipped me for some pretty cool trips around the globe. Last but not least, what is my affiliation to the brands that I'm presenting today? The WF19 riser I bought a while ago from the fella who used to run Tough Head broadheads. Tough Head, yeah. And while we're talking about them, I'm also running their tuning tips today, 200 grains, because they're the same length as their broadheads, which is of course something that's great when you're tuning. Second of all, Bosen RCX static recurve limbs, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And they were sent to me by Bosen to actually review just because I'm exchanging work for some gear, as many people do. I'm not biased. I'm gonna just tell you what I'm thinking about them, what you can expect and what you cannot expect them to be. So I'd say we're just gonna get to it. I'm a YouTuber, you know. Yeah, tubing. Yeah, I'm pretty good at it. Yeah, I don't want to say too much, but people watch my stuff, you know. Yeah. Yeah, no. Subscriber? I don't know. I stopped counting a while ago, you know. Like, who's counting, right? Yeah, I'm making money. I'm making a lot of money with it. Tons of money. Yeah, this is why I need everything sponsored that I own. Yeah. So folks, welcome to another video. As I said before, I just wanted to say thank you for the popular demand of all these videos, especially the Bosen longbow limbs. You know how much of a ILF longbow geek I am, and how much tuning and how much trying and everything has to be done to make these actually work. But when they work, it's quite a special and pretty cool feel. And so the next in line definitely was these type of limbs. They're called RCX by Bosen Archery, and despite getting a lot of hate mail about them being border rip-offs, which is several kinds of dumb, they're not. They can't be, because this is actually a static recurve and not a working recurve. Completely different shape. But before I get to that, what are we talking about today as well? In the first place, of course, a riser that you have seen before, and if you haven't looked at it as much, or like, I'm not gonna go into detail as much as in the distinct WF19 video I've done before, but it is obviously CD Archery's WF19, which is possibly one of the most controversial in a way, but also beloved risers on the market. It is an absolute beast for a lot of different reasons. It is very tunable. It's the most stable riser I have ever personally shot. I've never shot a riser that was as easy to tune. Despite not having a lot of deflex, it is extremely stable. It doesn't tend to torque, and that has to do, of course, with the infamous shovels on these risers. I am running a completely wrecked, carved, and neglected Archery grip on here that I carved out to get the most deflex out of the riser by carving all the way through to the riser aluminum itself. And then I kind of stacked it up a little bit with some leather that is coming loose slowly but surely. What else? As always, nap center rest, easy to replace even on a hunt, gives you very, very good tunability, and also does not have the necessity of running as high of a knock point, which has also something to do, of course, with me running a fixed crawl, etc., etc. Other than that, there is a Chinese $5 whatever dampener stabilizer thingy on the front, and I, by me, masterfully, of course, braided wrist sling, which I find an absolute no-brainer. I run finger slings otherwise, but I love, especially on a hunt, on a no-nonsense riser that I can just slip through here. In the beginning I thought they're the ugliest thing in the world. They're still the ugliest thing in the world, but they let me just let go of the bow, as in a rifle you want to have a free floating barrel. On a bow you just kind of want to have your pressure point and have a little bit of a fuller, if you want, between your forefinger and your thumb, where the bow is more or less just allowed to pivot in there, or at least jump straight to target. Other than that, there's nothing really about it. It still has the Wojo written on it, the guy who used to run Toughhead. Super cool riser. I don't think I'm ever gonna get rid of it, because no matter if I put longbow limbs or recurve limbs on them, they both tune easy, and the riser is very stable. And it starts to rain, of course. Whenever I do a video, it starts raining. Coming out from the grip towards the end of the ILF attachments, they're just super heavy, solid ILF accessories. And then, of course, we have an Eagle Flight quiver. My favorite quivers, they do not screw with the balance of the bow whatsoever, still stands there vertically, but I have 4 arrows on here, and each of them actually weighs over 560 grains with 255 grains up front. Heavy vanes, and there's even a lighted nock on it, so they're heavy, nice hunting arrows for anything you could consider. And still, the bow's balance is not negatively influenced, and I think it has to do with the Eagle Flight quiver being so light and the arrows being so tightly to the bow. Before I'm skipping out of the shot, let's have a look at the arrows. I am running some no-name axis diameter Chinese shafts with helical, super cheap AAE Elite fletching on the back, 1 string of arrow webs as always. There is a collar on the front and the back, which is something that is basically the cheapest bomb-proof accessory setup you can do. There's some, I think they're called D-cut Chinese knocks on here that can actually be flipped on and off with a little button flipper thingy here that does not actually break after a couple minutes. And then up front, like I said before, there is a hit insert with 50 grains, and I'm running the Toughhead tuning points, which I like a lot because they're easy to pull. They're the same length as my Toughhead 200 grain broadheads, and they look cool. Alright, let's talk about the limbs. 36.5 at 40 yards. Guess, estimate, check. When I was younger, these didn't look as far away somehow. just under his belly. Left right was great. It's just at the very end of my point on distance, and every yard makes a difference. Okay. This is the advantage and disadvantage of the fixed crawl. Within 25 meters, I know exactly where to be. No problem, no thinking. As soon as it hits 30, the arrow drops so much. Not ideal. Out hunting on 20 meters, hunting, perfect. I just need to do my freaking job. So that's of course how that should look like, what that should look like. After you remove the other 3 arrows that were scattered all over the target, I guess. RCX, static recurve limbs. Medium length, 62 inches AMO on a 19-inch riser, 50 pounds. What are they and what are they not? They are pretty darn lightweight for what they are. I'm gonna put weight or something right here because obviously I didn't weigh him. But that's something important, so they're gonna go there. Then, what are they as well? They are super well built. They have not the hint of a twist, they're super straight. I put them also on risers that do not have any lateral limb adjustment. They are very straight, which I couldn't say about other recurve, strong recurve limbs that I had. Not super curves, but, well, I had a pair of super curves actually by another brand, and they were the most awful thing I've ever had in my entire life. What are they as well? Build quality, like I said, super decent. Everything is straight, everything is tight, everything is symmetrical. Funny that I have to mention that. What are they as well? They're really rugged because I do not look out for my stuff. I mean, this thing just today hit the floor at home that I thought it's gonna explode. I mean, if you had done that to other limbs by other manufacturers that do super curves, that thing would have blown up in a bazillion pieces and you would have been, or in case me, I would have been dead, probably. But these didn't budge. I don't know why, but that's another thing that really came to my mind. Are they quiet? They're a little bit, I mean, like all of these limbs, there's a lot of string slap, there's a lot of force building up when you're pulling these back. They're not quiet, and the main reason here is not the limbs, but it's me. And the reason for that being that I am fooling around with fixed crawls and running up and down the string so much. And this is something that I would definitely have to fine tune. Right now, they're definitely out of sync. I can tell you that. And that is something that makes a bow a little bit louder, and you hear that in the video, and that's totally fine. And it doesn't necessarily have to do entirely and only with the limbs. They have actually a impressively low amount of vibration for a high performance limb, which is what they are. Boy, that's small. Now, before I forget, you might have noticed this little orange accessory, very pretty little accessory I want to say, on my bino harness. I'm glad you're asking. It's actually the Pup 1.0. It is a hunting EDC and do everything you want it to do. Little knife that I developed based on my time guiding canoe trips and backcountry hunting trips in Canada over the past years. And it would be totally awesome if you checked it out. It's featuring actually a super nice Kydex sheath, a 14C28N. blade, which is a Sandvik steel used for knives past several $100s. It's collapsible, or you can take it apart with Torx screws, and it's running G10 handle scale, so the whole knife is completely rust and weatherproof and can be bleached and disinfected in case you get it into some nasty stuff. So do me a favor and check it out, because I'm pretty darn proud of it, and everybody who is running it and has it is pretty freaking pleased with it. So check it out on my website, woodsmansfinest.com. Link is down in the description box. It's hard to talk about your own stuff. 25, I'd say 25 meters, 25.1, but that worked. I'm gonna shoot that point on. Love how consistent these limbs are, because they give me a little bit of a, almost like a letdown feeling, a little bit like you can definitely feel when the recurves are folding over. So I think it gives me quite a consistent draw. There's something in there, so that 560 grain arrow arrived exactly where it was supposed to and then popped out. They seem to repair these animals a lot, and this is kind of what happened. Yeah, it's perfectly point on, 25 meters. Anything below, I can probably use the belly. 30, I'm probably good still covering the kill zone using the point of the arrow. Was a tad right, but there is no vertical stringing on these. That was just me the last shot. All of them are deadly. Little flashback. There's some information coming. This information is important when choosing limbs like this, so bear with me, folks. 30. Actually 34 even. Alright. That's a weird looking bear. Jeez. Not gonna give that more than that. No, folks, let's talk draw cycle, because that is obviously something that people are interested in when it comes to these type of special limbs. The draw cycle is not quite like a super curve in the way that there is very early on you've got just a wall and that flattens out at like 20, whatever, 22, 23 inches. It is more, there is a wall in the beginning, which is of course something that I personally have talked about. I don't usually like too much because my shoulders are pretty bad, and I find that having the wall at the beginning of the draw where the shoulder is a little bit more in a vulnerable position is something I usually don't prefer, but it is not as bad. It's not this type of compound wall where you're like just pulling against it and you're like, yeah, this is not going anywhere. But it also does not have this type of let-off feeling that you would get from a hyper, super, whatever curve. You know, these things that look like you can put a soccer ball in them. Which I also don't like, because then I don't really have this wall on the back that I can pull against, which cleans up my release. On this bow here, it's semi this and semi that, which means the wall in the beginning is not as hard and seemingly everlasting, but it also does not have this type of extreme let-off feeling where from like 22, 23 inches it just like only climbs a pound or even under a pound per inch. Which brings me to a very important topic. You need to choose these limbs lighter than you usually would, and you should choose these limbs shorter than you usually would. let me explain. I do shoot a gap system, and I shoot a fixed crawl that helps me with the gaps, so my gaps are not as big. Despite doing this and shooting, I have a 27.5, 28-ish inch draw. I shoot 31-inch arrows, 350 spine with 250 grains up front, and I still need to almost crawl 2 inches on the string in order to have a point on that is somewhere around 25 meters, which I use for hunting, because this is a hunting setup for me. In other words, a 45-pound bow would have totally done, because the arrows are fast. These are almost 11.5, 12 grain per pound arrows that I choose heavy on purpose, because otherwise my point on is in a different zip code. So I would, in the future, I would go down by about 5 pounds and still shoot a heavy arrow with a nice point on at 20 meters. That gives me anything from 10 to 25-ish. I'm super fine hunting, you know, just being on the animal's body. That's the one thing. The second thing is that with my short draw, 62-inch AMO, 19-inch riser, and 60, like medium limbs for a 62-inch bow, like I said, I need to have a perfectly nice draw, which I should work on anyways, to have this type of let off feeling to a certain degree. So there is a hump that the recurves basically fold over that is feelable for me around the last 2 or 3 inches. If I combine the long limbs with a 17-inch riser for a 62-inch AMO bow, I don't get that. In other words, I could put these limbs now on a 17-inch riser for a 60-inch bow, but then they're too heavy for me. Or like, they're not too heavy, but they're not fun to shoot anymore, because then I'm going somewhere around like 53, 54 pounds with a little bit of a heavy wall in the beginning. That's just not good for my shoulders that have been destroyed by grappling, mixed martial arts, American football, and heavy lifting for a long time. So I'm not doing that anymore because it's not necessary. Let me sum this up. These are high performance limbs that allow you to drop down in weight in order to reach high performance, and that's something that you should do. If you are a 27-inch draw, run these in medium on a 17-inch riser. Or if you want to choose a long riser, you have to go short, but I don't even know if they offer them short, because shorts with such a short working recurve, really, or like such a short working limb, because these recurves don't work, they are static, is something that they probably don't recommend. Now I mean this is a lot of talking, but I hope this gets you an idea about what's important when choosing these type of limbs, because it's all about tuning. There's no point in you ordering a limb and then it does not have this type of opening up feeling for you. It's too heavy in the beginning. You can't find arrows that tune, or they will tune, but then like you have a point on of 60 meters, or you have to run like a 2-inch fixed crawl, which might screw around with your anchor and your sight picture at the end of the day. So there's all of these different things to consider, and this is why I'm making this part so long. Now, what I'm very impressed by is the stability of the limb. Doing this, and I'm using force with other limbs like this, the bow's probably gonna explode and kill me. I am very happy with the stability. I'm, like you see in the video about comparing all of these on the chrono, I'm gonna put this in here somewhere. These are fast and they're very consistent. Every pull with the limb gauge, if you will, with a little like pull weight or like pull weight scale, came to almost exactly the same draw weight at my draw, which means that first of all I'm glad that I'm having somewhat of consistent draw, which helps. Second of all, these are very consistent and very repeatable, and they're stable. The cast was as impressively consistent as the draw weight, which makes it a breeze to tune, which makes it very repeatable for you when you're actually training and practicing your distances, your gaps, etc., etc. So your bow is not going to throw a different velocity on every shot. We're just going to screw really with your distances and your gaps and everything. So I'm still checking out my gaps on this one. We're about 35, 36 yards, 33 meters. And I shot 2 different gaps, just checking. Pretty far away. Pretty far apart actually. So I shot it point on, covered, that's the lower arrow. And I shot it using my nap center rest as a pin. That's the upper arrow. So I know at about 35 meters, something like this, I can use my pin and I'm pretty spot on. Just proving my point. That was a little bit high. So without getting too much into the shooting side of things, at this I can basically tell, so this was about 35 meters, like something like 36, 37 yards, something like that, I don't even care. Just under 40. So there's hardly any left and right. So that tells me that the tune is great. I'm not going to change anything on this bow anymore. But there's definitely some vertical string in, which means that first of all, if I do have a little bit of an inconsistent draw, the bow is actually really well compensating the spine. Secondly, sorry, that's really yappy dog. I love dogs, but yappy dogs are just a pain. But I can just tell that I'm not quite sure yet at the different distances where to put my aim, if you will. So there is some vertical string in. These were probably the 2 that I would take. They were hovering a little bit lower, using my pin, basically my center rest, which I really like for aiming a lot. This was a little bit higher last shot, and this one was me using the arrow to shoot point on. So there's quite a significant gap there at that distance. So anything over 25 meters, like 28 yards or something, I can't use the arrow that well anymore. Did I miss anything? They're not for everybody. Just to say something that's not positive, or like half positive. Or is it even negative? It's not even negative. It's just like they're not for everybody. Like I personally am a longbow guy. I'm getting excited over the look and the feel of a longbow. ILF longbow, 1-piece longbow, 3-piece longbow, it doesn't really matter. Is this a super cool like post-apocalyptic Mongol type of like I'm shooting this thing from like a motorcycle kind of thing? Yeah, it's a super cool bow. You can use this for hunting, you can use it for 3D shooting, it's stable. It can be tuned to be quiet if you actually taking your time, not like me. Is it hard on the string? Honestly, it's the craziest thing. This string here is by JS Custom Strings out of Australia. I have had this string longer than any other string that has long broken on me. And I keep putting them onto recurves. It's a 652, I think, Spectre. I can't even remember what. Is it 652? I'm not sure. It's a Spectre string. I love it. And these limbs don't break it. So, despite being rugged and everything, a regular fast flightish string, I think with 16 strands or 14 even, 16, I don't know. It's holding up. Is there anything negative to say about them? I don't know. Like I said, not for everybody. I enjoy them a lot. I would take them 5 pounds lighter, and I would then be able to put them on a 17-inch riser, and I would probably reconsider to take them then 8 pounds lighter, because at that 43, 45 pounds, something like this, these are still gonna cast a hunting arrow with very respectable speed without ruining my body. So, folks, I hope this was enjoyable. I don't think I forgot anything. I hope you like these videos. Check out the RCX GT limbs by Bosen through the link in the description box. They were so kind to send these to me. I'm happy with them. If you have any more questions, let me know. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed watching my little shenanigans thing here. So, cheers from Austria, and look forward to see you in the next one. Cheers.